The mountain town of Pine Ridge sat cradled between two long, snow-dusted ridges in northern Montana, a place most maps barely bothered to name. Winters were brutal, summers short, and gossip traveled faster than the river in spring flood. And in Pine Ridge, everyone knew Elijah Boone. He lived alone in a hand-built cabin high above the tree line, a broad-shouldered mountain man with a beard shot through with gray though he was barely past 40. Folks said he'd come back from the war different. Quieter, harder, sadder. He trapped in winter, cut timber in summer, and came into town once a month for supplies. And every time he did, the widows noticed. There were many widows in Pine Ridge. Logging accidents, mine collapses, sickness, harsh winters that took men too young. And many of those widows were still young themselves. They watched Elijah with careful eyes. He was strong, honest, owned his own land, never drank too much, never chased trouble. He had the kind of silence that hinted at depth instead of emptiness. One by one, the prettiest widows found reasons to cross his path. Mary Caldwell, accidentally, dropped her basket near him at the general store. Lillian Brooks lingered by the hitching post whenever his horse was tied there. Rose Whitaker baked pies and sent her little boy to deliver slices to his cabin with notes tucked under the plate. Elijah thanked them politely, paid for the pies, returned baskets, nodded respectfully, but he never lingered, never flirted, never came calling. Man must be dead inside, Rose huffed once. Or he thinks he's too good for us, Mary muttered. The town agreed on one thing. Elijah Boone didn't want a woman. They were wrong. He just didn't want the kind they kept offering. Because the only woman he truly saw was the one no one else did. Her name was Hannah Miller. She lived on the edge of town in a sagging little house that had belonged to her parents. She was large, soft-bodied, plain-faced, and always wore faded dresses with mended hems. Children whispered about her size. Women pitied her. Men ignored her. Hannah worked quietly at the boarding house kitchen, washing dishes, kneading dough, sweeping floors. She spoke little and smiled rarely, not because she was unfriendly, but because she'd learned long ago that people didn't look long at girls like her. She'd been engaged once, years ago. The man left for work in the mines and never came back. After that, Hannah folded in on herself like a wilted flower. Except when she went to the mountains. Every Sunday afternoon, Hannah walked up the winding trail with a basket on her arm. Inside were fresh biscuits, preserves, and whatever small repair tools she could carry. She never told anyone where she went, except Elijah Boone, because one winter evening, 3 years earlier, he'd collapsed in the snow near her house. She'd found him barely conscious, frostbitten fingers curled tight around his axe. No one else had been in sight, so Hannah had done what she'd always done best. She'd quietly helped. She dragged him inside, built a fire, warmed his hands, cleaned the blood from his split lip, fed him broth until his eyes focused again. Elijah had woken to the smell of bread and the soft clink of dishes. "You're safe," she'd said simply. He stayed 3 days while the storm passed. They barely spoke, but something changed in him during those 3 days. After that, Elijah came by her house once a month with firewood stacked neatly on her porch. And Hannah started walking to his cabin every Sunday. She patched his torn shirts, fixed the loose hinge on his door, oiled his rifle, cooked meals he never remembered to make for himself. She didn't chatter, didn't cry, didn't look at him with expectation. She just quietly repaired his life one small task at a time. And Elijah, who hadn't felt peace since the war, began to feel something settle inside his chest. He didn't call it love. Not yet. In town, the widows grew bolder. One afternoon, Lillian Brooks cornered him outside the store. "Elijah, a man your age shouldn't live alone," she said softly, fingers brushing his sleeve. He stepped back. "I manage fine. You deserve companionship." "I have it." She blinked. "From who?" Elijah didn't answer. A week later, Mary Caldwell marched up the mountain with a basket and a smile. Hannah was just leaving when Mary arrived. Mary took one look at her and frowned. "You live here?" "No," Hannah said quietly. "I'm just visiting." Mary knocked on the door. Elijah answered. Mary launched into practiced charm. Elijah listened politely, then said, "You should head back before dark." Mary flushed. "Are you seeing someone?" Elijah hesitated. then nodded. Mary's eyes flicked to Hannah's retreating figure. Her mouth twisted. The town found out by evening. The mountain man chose that fat kitchen girl. Must be desperate. Probably just using her for chores. Hannah heard the whispers. She almost stopped going to the mountain. But Elijah showed up at her door one evening with snow in his beard and a look she'd never seen on his face. Fear. Did I do something wrong? She asked softly. No, he said quickly. I heard people talking. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Hear what? That I care about you. Her hands trembled. You don't have to say that out of kindness. I'm not kind, he said. I'm honest. He looked down at her, not at her body, not at her face. At her eyes. You saved my life, he said. You fixed my cabin. You made my world quiet again. I don't know when it happened. I just know I don't sleep right if I don't see you every week. Hannah swallowed. I'm not pretty. I don't need pretty, he said. I need you. Tears slid down her cheeks. The next Sunday, Hannah walked to the cabin like always. But this time, Elijah met her halfway down the trail. He took her basket, took her hand, and didn't let go. They married in spring. No lace, no fuss, just wildflowers, clean clothes, and vows spoken under pine branches. The widows attended, some out of curiosity, some out of bitterness, some out of quiet shame. Elijah built Hannah a new kitchen, planted her a garden, fixed the porch swing, and every night, he sat beside her with his hand over hers. The town slowly changed its tone. They saw Hannah laugh more, stand taller, bloom. They saw Elijah softer, lighter, alive. And one evening at the general store, Rose Whitaker whispered to Mary Caldwell. He didn't choose her body. Mary nodded slowly. He chose her soul. Up on the mountain, Elijah Boone slept with peace in his chest. Because the woman no one wanted had quietly repaired the parts of him no one else could reach.